I would like for everybody to take a moment and reflect. Think about your life in the past year and the major events that impacted you both personally and globally. Think about politics, weather, technology, the social climate, your family, and the experiences that have shaped you. Now think about whether or not you would be able to express all of those ideas in a single page. How would you be able to convey the emotions they create? I hope that tonight I will be able to provide you all with a way to express these ideas and to recognize the ideas of the past. And it might not be in the way you think. Interestingly, the answer can be found in art. Through visuals, artists speak an unspoken yet universally understood language. Throughout history, artists have kept a record of the personal and emotional aspects of a time period in a way that simply cannot be conveyed in any other medium. From the defiance of the American Revolution to the ever so complex now, artists have been present, providing an insight like no other. For the past few months, I've been researching how a time period can influence art. In November, I had the opportunity to visit the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. Going there really gave me insights about how time interacts with its time period. Take the Revolutionary War. Paintings at this time depicted idealized people, perfect skin, hair, and body. Everybody painted was influential and wealthy. People needed faces to look up to, and portraits provided that. The founding fathers were often subjects of these paintings. Americans wanted to be able to see the people who were changing their government. If paintings weren't portraits, then they were scenes of significant events. Battles, the first congressional meeting, and conferences with important dignitaries were all shown. Paintings helped spread the news about major events in the time period and created visuals that otherwise would have been impossible to reproduce. Without art, many people would have been left in the dark. It truly did serve as a literal means of communication. The most famous example of art being used in this way is Paul Revere's print, The Bloody Massacre. This was used as propaganda. It influenced. It got people enraged with Britain and let people know about the state of affairs in Boston. Without pieces like this, many people would have been left in the dark about the world around them. Fast forward 200 years to the 1960s. The 60s, sometimes referred to as the turbulent or swinging 60s, was a decade of change. Consumerism, the selling of goods marketed towards customers, skyrocketed in this decade, creating many household brands we know today. Socially, people were enraged with the government, the war in Vietnam, and the decisions of their predecessors. They took to the streets and marched the injustice they believed was happening. This aura of nonconformity definitely made its way into the art world. With the opening of galleries, many new art forms arose, most notably of which was pop art. Compared to the art that came before it, pop art broke all the rules. It was fun, exciting, depicted real brands and the everyday life of consumer America. Andy Warhol's paintings, Campbell's Soup Cans, is a perfect example. The painting is really just a bunch of canned soup. There's nothing special about it, but it resonated in the hearts of Americans at the time. Brands in this age of consumerism were used to show the every person. Art gave people a way to manifest their desires for change in a way that did not require words. Rutgers curator of American art, Donna Gustafson, said this about art in the 1960s. Many artists were politically active, and their art reflected that. Many others were not so political, but their art reflected their ideas about freedom of expression. Through art, a generation was able to define themselves in a way that was understandable by people from all walks of life. These two time periods show how art can do something that words fail to do. They can show the emotional and personal aspects of a time period. When students learn about history in school, they rarely utilize art. People don't immediately think of visuals when talking about the American Revolution, and that's a shame. Art can remove the language barrier synonymous with texts. In order to truly understand the time period, visuals must be used. Now, let's look at today. Regardless of differing political and social views, there is no denying that we are currently at a pivotal point of American history. Social progression, advancements in technology, and our current president are all factors that define this age. So I began wondering, how could I, as a teenager, represent today through art? I started by focusing on technology. At what point is it at now, and how has it made its way into our everyday lives? The first thing that came to my mind was social media. So I drew an Instagram-like platform, wanting to also depict the positive social media can have, along with the unfortunate natural disasters as of late. I have our woman scrolling and pausing on a post promoting hurricane relief. Social media has been a gateway for many young people to learn about the news, connect with each other, and create a positive impact in the world. Social media has easily become one of the largest factors of the past decades and are very much one of the things that define this age. In my next drawing, I wanted to tackle politics. So I decided to draw an older man reading his newspaper. In an effort to include diversity in the hands that I drew, the woman in the previous drawing was young and of a minority race, while this one shows an older Caucasian man. The headlines of this paper are events that we are all very familiar with today. Robert Mueller's investigation on Donald Trump and sexual allegations are highlighted. Everybody in this audience has seen a newspaper that looks something like the one this man is reading. Now, this last drawing gave me a lot of problems. I just couldn't come up with an idea. I had so many different concepts for it when planning. I thought about it should be how we interact with nature or how the United States deals with foreign affairs. But none of them were strong enough. There was something I was missing. Then something happened in March of this past year. Teenagers began speaking up about current gun laws. Marches were being held, people were speaking out, and the entire nation was listening. I had the honor to attend the March for Our Lives in New York. At the march, I realized something I had forgotten. Every artist throughout history put themselves or their story into their work. I remembered that I wanted to show how life was through my eyes, not an objective point of view. That personal aspect to art is what truly makes it unique. When I got back from the march, I knew what my final drawing had to be. This drawing shows a teenage girl holding up a sign. What she's written on the sign remains a mystery, but given the context of these past few months, you don't have to wonder too hard. I wanted to show that a defining characteristic of this time are the young people. The people who are speaking out and making their voices heard, they are what truly show the emotion and spirit of the time. I knew that in order to accurately show how life was now, I needed to add a personal element to my art. The march was that element. So I'll leave you with this. Art should be a more utilized tool when trying to understand the time period. Unlike all other forms of information, art shows the emotional and personal aspects of a time. And maybe instead of just looking at cold, hard facts and data, an emotional perspective is more valuable. I would like for everybody to remember the event that I asked you about at the beginning of the speech. The events that define you are far too complex to be conveyed in only words. Now, I would like for everybody to please take out your phones. Open the Notes app and press the pencil icon on the top right corner. Now I want you to doodle that event that I thought of earlier. Regardless of your artistic ability, just draw, and then share it with the person next to you. And please remember that a picture often speaks volumes more than words. Thank you.